You've probably heard the number, right? It's been floating around for over a decade, this idea that there's a specific price tag on happiness. It's been in articles, it's come up in conversations, and it's been treated like a fact. And that number is, of course, $75,000. And for what feels like forever, that's been the magic number. It's the supposed income level where any extra cash just stops making you any happier. It's a nice thought, isn't it? It kind of fits with all those old sayings like, money can't buy happiness. But let's be real. If you're living in today's world, paying today's bills, that number probably sounds, well, a little absurd. And you'd be absolutely right to be skeptical. The truth is, that whole idea is built on some seriously outdated data and, honestly, a huge misunderstanding of what the research ever said in the first place. Okay, so let's break this down. The first, and maybe most obvious problem with that $75,000 figure is that it's just old, like really old. The study that it came from, the data was collected way back in 2008 and 2009. And, well, I think we can all agree a lot has changed since then. I mean, just look at basic inflation. That 75 grand from 2009 just doesn't stretch as far anymore. To have that same exact purchasing power today, you'd actually need about $108,000. So, boom, right out of the gate, before we dig any deeper, the number we should be talking about is already more than 40% higher. But it's not just about inflation. The context is everything. You have to remember when they collected this data. This wasn't just any random year. It was right in the middle of the global financial crisis. People were losing their homes, their jobs. The whole economy was in a freefall. So think about it. In that kind of environment, the bar for feeling happy was just lower. People were in survival mode. Just having a steady paycheck, any kind of financial stability, felt like a massive win. That kind of crisis totally skews what people are going to report as happiness. So, okay, we've got an outdated number from a flawed context. But honestly, that's not even the biggest problem here. The real issue is that pretty much everyone misunderstood what the study was even about. It wasn't measuring one single thing called happiness. It was actually looking at two very different ideas. And this says it all. The clue was literally right there in the title of the original research paper. Notice those two phrases, evaluation of life and emotional well-being. They are not, and were never meant to be, the same thing. All right, let's unpack that. Over on the left, we have emotional well-being. This is your day-to-day feeling, the emotional ups and downs. You could call it your smiles per hour. Then on the right, you've got life evaluation. This is the big picture. It's not how you feel right this second, but how you feel about your life overall. Are you making progress towards your goals? The study found that while more money doesn't really make you smile more day to day, it absolutely makes you feel better about your life's big picture. So, why doesn't more money just keep making us happier every single day? Well, it comes down to this really fascinating psychological idea called the hedonic treadmill. Basically, we just get used to things. Imagine you win the lottery. It would be incredible for a while. But eventually, that new lifestyle just becomes your new normal. Your brain adapts, and you settle back to your baseline level of happiness. So, if the link between money and happiness isn't just a straight line up, what is it? Well, the real answer seems to be on a logarithmic scale. Now, that sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. When it comes to happiness, it's all about percentages, not specific dollar amounts. Here's a super clear way to see it. If you're making $25,000 a year, getting a raise to $50,000 is life-changing. You just doubled your income. That's a huge happiness boost. But if you're already earning $250,000, another 25 grand is nice, but it won't feel nearly as significant. To get that same doubling effect, that same big happiness boost, you'd need to jump all the way to $500,000 a year. And, of course, there's just real life. Even that updated number of $108,000 is kind of meaningless without context. For a single person with no debt, that could feel like a ton of money. But for a family of 5 trying to pay a mortgage in an expensive city like Los Angeles, that exact same income is going to feel a whole lot tighter. And this really brings us to the most crucial point of all. Money's role in our happiness is a big deal, but it is far from the only thing going on. In fact, when researchers stepped back to look at the whole happiness pie, they found something pretty amazing. Check this out. It turns out that income can only explain about 37% of the difference in people's happiness. That means a whopping 63% of what makes you happy has nothing to do with your bank account. It's tied to things like your health, your relationships with friends and family, and having a sense of purpose in your life. So what's the big takeaway here? Money is an incredibly important tool, no doubt about it. It can reduce stress, it can open doors, and that absolutely helps with your long-term satisfaction. It's a huge piece of the puzzle. But it's so important to remember that it's just that, one piece. It is not the whole picture. So this leaves us with something to think about. We know the old $75,000 number was a myth, but we also know that money does help solve problems and build security. So after we adjust for today's world, is 108,000 the new magic number? Or, given everything we now know about context and our own personal lives, is the real answer not a number at all?
If you enjoyed watching the video, please like and tell us in the comments, do you earn enough to be happy?